Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a story titled, I Caught My Wife Cheating with Her Ex-Boyfriend, Still Competing with His Son's Mother. And a big shout out to Joseph for sending me this story. And guys, this is a story about a guy who ended up kicking his wife to the curb because, wait for it, he caught her cheating. And when you see the whole logistics and how she was cheating, it's definitely going to make you guys shake your head. And also, guys, you're going to see ultimately this guy will have the last laugh in a way about how things work. You see, guys, this is about a guy who's your typical nice guy. A typical white knight who thought he could save the girl from her bad boy ex-boyfriend who had a history of cheating on her, hurting her, disappointing her, and all that. He, like so many guys out there, watched way too many movies, thought by being the hero, the nice guy that listened to all her problems, amongst many other things, and then winning her, so to speak, could change everything. Sadly, not the case. And this is a perfect example why I do what I do, guys. 2 videos a day between this channel and the other one, sometimes 3 videos, to help share these stories to reinforce reality. Not how everybody wants things to be, how they are in the movies, but reality. And if you act like this guy, you're going to be heartbroken. But our hero here in the end, although he acts weak in the beginning, he does come out strong and definitely all the wiser. So it's definitely a good one here. So it starts off, it says here, last year, I did the hardest thing I could do, and that was divorce my wife. Amen, brother, and you had every right for it. I can't understand why she broke up our family, so maybe I'm trying to gain that here. Well, I could tell after 1 page. I know my friends would say to just get over it, but it makes my head spin sometimes. I can't lie. My wife was messing around with her ex-boyfriend, even though she's better off by leaving him. Bro, he was the bad boy and you were the nice guy. And nice guys will typically not ever understand why the gals keep going back to them. I, a 34-year-old male, met my wife, a 31-year-old female, on the bus going to work 7 years ago. She got on the bus 3 stops after me, and I would always stare at her. Well, that's a little creepy, dude. There were a few pretty girls that would get on the bus, but she was my favorite. One day, the bus driver had hopped off the bus to go into a convenience store, and we just looked at each other and laughed. We talked about how weird that was, and we talked ever since. Well, that'd be an opportunity to ask her out if you didn't creep her out by staring at her. While we were riding the bus and talking, she would bring up her boyfriend, Keith, and always complain about him. She would always catch him cheating with another of his child and would deny it. His son's mother didn't like her, so they never really got along, and it would cause them to always be separated. I really cared about her, so I would tell her to just leave since he was a clown, but she would always stay. I didn't know how to get this out of her, get out of the dumb love triangle that she was in. So what do we have here? Immediately, he's on the bus with her riding to work or school or whatever, and she's going on and on about her problems. He's the guy who's going to listen to all her problems, thinking, I'm not going to ask her out, because I don't want her to turn me down. So I'm going to be that nice guy and let her talk about her problems, the bad boyfriend, in hopes that one day she'll see that I'm such a nice guy and such a good listener and so caring that she'll just immediately just lose all attraction and interest in her boyfriend and come to me. How many of you guys have been that guy at least once in your life? Because you know what? Right here. I did that same shit in high school. And I thought I'd get the girl. And guess what times? How many times do you think I got the girl with that tactic? Never. But this guy gets her, but you're going to see he never really gets her. This is not the way to go. You ask her out. If she's not interested, that's it. You don't stay there pretending to be her friend. Because that's what he's doing. He wants her. He's just pretending. And he can't figure out why she's still with this guy. All that changed when my father gave me his SUV when he upgraded his car with no charge. This was great, and one of the first things I had wanted to do was pick her up from the bus stop. Yeah, you don't have to ride the bus anymore, you can ride my bus. When I had got that car, I started picking her up and taking her to work. Sometimes her ex didn't do that. Even though she got to work earlier, she was happy when I started taking her to other places just to hang out. So he's being her personal chauffeur. First, he's listening to all her crap about her boyfriend, trying to show her the nice guy, got the SUV. Now he's driving her everywhere. He's, I'm sure, a good guy, but begging to be taken advantage of. Some guys have to learn the hard way. Don't worry, guys. Things will get better. We have so much in common, especially since she had family that lived in my area where I grew up. After a while, I decided to shoot my shot and told her how I feel and that she should leave her boyfriend. Like she doesn't already know how you feel. Come on, man. She tried to give me a bunch of excuses, but failed to give me a good reason to stay with him. A few days later, she called me and told me she wanted to hang out for the weekend. When I picked her up, she told me she was done with him and his situation with his child's mother. After that, we were officially dating. So he's thinking, yes, I got her. The movies were right. The movies told me that if I do just what I did, I'm going to get the girl. Hallelujah, Hollywood. That's what he's thinking. But does he ever really get her? Does he get her heart? Does he get her soul? Does he get her mind? We shall see. We dated about 3 years before we got married. She was definitely happy to be in a relationship with me and bragged to her friend about how great I was. Probably bragged because she now has some resources she has access to. This had made me feel good, and I thought we seemed like those funny TikTok couples that she looks at. She started talking about marriage, and I proposed soon afterwards. We were so in bliss, and after I proposed, we actually got pregnant before getting married. Smack. I should have smacked him earlier, I must admit, but I'm a little off today. I don't want to hear this "we're pregnant" crap. She's pregnant, jackass. You can say we're expecting. After getting married, we had 2 daughters and a nice home to live in. There was very little for me to complain about at the time. I want to know what she's like in the bedroom. I will bet you he gets the basic, bare minimum of the SCX. Meanwhile, the ex-bad boy probably got her in every position, every room, every orifice, every act known to man to make the bad boy happy. We're the typical family running around after our daughters, who are 5 and 3 years old, and going to work. I always treated her right and tried to balance being a good father and husband. She would do the same, although it was a challenge because our daughters were definitely a handful. One day, I and my cousin Anthony canceled on me because his mom was getting out of the hospital. Since he was picking her up, I decided to take my wife's car to finally get her check engine light taken care of. After walking out of the shop, I opened her glove compartment up to see paperwork inside for the later. When I opened it up, a bunch of crap fell out and I had to pick it up. While I was cleaning it out, I found a pretty recent picture of her with her ex-boyfriend Keith. Imagine that. And by the way, guys can always complain about their girl never taking their car in to be serviced. Right here, he said the check engine light. How many of you guys have had girlfriends or wives? Right here, girlfriend. Check engine light can be on for a freaking year. They're never going to take it in. They want you to take it in. Car breakdown right in the middle of nowhere. They don't want to take it in. But the check engine light actually helps save him. The picture surprised me because there was a picture of him locked up somewhere. And the picture with him was my wife and her sister Nadine. This surprised me because I never heard about her visiting him while he was locked up. Well, she shouldn't be visiting him or having any contact with him because he's the ex and she's your wife. But they can never give up that love, that being drawn to that ex-bad boy. I didn't even know he was locked up. He got a little heavier, his dreads were longer, and he was wearing glasses he didn't need, but was definitely him. Imagine that the ex-bad boy boyfriend was in prison. After cleaning up the mess, I drove home with a bunch of crap on my mind. I couldn't understand why she was going to meet him while he was locked up, and why I wasn't told about this. Duh, dude. Of course she's not going to tell you she's in contact with her ex, who's in prison. It gave me a sinking suspicion about this, especially since it was so hard to get her to leave the love triangle situation she was in. When I got home, my wife was watching TV and went straight for the computer. I did a deep dive and I found out more about the situation. Apparently, I knew I wasn't going to find anything on her social media, so I decided to check her sister Nadine's page. I found out he's been out for 3 years thanks to the pictures. Looking further through Nadine's friends, there were pictures of my wife with Keith and Nadine at a couple's places and parties. Seeing this got me emotional. I had to ask her about it and see what she had to say. I started the conversation with my wife and I casually asked, has she heard from Keith? She looked at me confused and had told me she hadn't even heard from him. A little liar. I couldn't believe she just lied to me in my face, and I knew I couldn't trust her anymore. When that happened, I started thinking about all the things I should have noticed that was going on. She was gone more often, she stayed up late on her phone, and she avoided romantic gestures towards me. After she lied, I started snooping for some answers. Now he's looking back at all the things that he turned a blind eye to and said, these things didn't add up. He was just in that love fog with the perfect family and all that he wasn't paying attention. And this happens to so many guys. I mean, you can't fault him for this. The problem is he was just so... just the idea of that family. He thought he won. He was that guy in that movie. He thought he got the girl, took her away from the bad boy, gave her the good life. Wrong. To catch her slipping, I took on more responsibility with the kids so that she might use her free time to make a mistake around me. After a few days, she slipped up and told him I was going to be taking the kids to see my parents. After hanging out with my kids and my parents, I called the old lady who lived next door and asked if she sees anybody come over to my house. She said she did a while ago, and it was the same car it usually was. This surprised me because even our neighbor knew Keith was coming over. Not only is she hooking up with her piece of crap jailbird ex-boyfriend, who this guy thought he rescued her from, but she's doing it in their own house. I mean, she isn't just betraying him, she's betraying the kids too. Let's keep that in mind. Selfish little a-hole. Even though I didn't know everything yet, I was still mad because deep down I knew what was up. When we got back, I asked her if she had any friends over, and she said no, and she just took a nap. This was BS. So I was ready to leave her. That weekend, I made up an excuse to leave the house all day. I told her I was going to take the kids and their classmates' house to play, and then I was going to go see my cousin Anthony. She's probably like, yes, husband's away, I can get some D. She was fine with it, and when that Saturday came, I took the kids to the house and waited, hung out at a close restaurant. After hanging out for 3 hours, I called her and got no answer. I called one more time, and she didn't answer again, and that wasn't normal for her. That's because she had Keith's you-know-what in her mouth, and she couldn't quite answer the phone at that time. After that, I drove onto my street and parked at the end of it. Walking back to the house, his car was there, and I got mad, but still held together. This poor guy. I mean, all jokes aside, and he was obviously a clueless, nice guy. White knight. No guy should be treated like this, especially one who's this good to his wife and the kids and all that. She's a scumbag, and he deserves way better, but he's got to learn reality real quick. Well, he has learned. We lived in a ranch-style house, so I couldn't go through because we didn't have an upstairs to sneak in. This meant I had to go through the back where our kitchen was. Going in, when I got to the living room, I could already hear them. Apparently, they left the bedroom door open, and when I looked inside, I was destroyed by seeing him plow her in our bed. I just froze and had to stop myself from being zoned out. I can't imagine what that's like. You think everything's great with your family, you love your wife, and then boom, there's Keith nailing your wife. After snapping back to reality, I went next door to see my neighbor, so when I confronted her, I had a real witness on everything. After knocking on the door, her son opened the door, which was actually better. He asked me how I was doing, and I asked him could he help me with something in my house. He asked me what it was, and I said I really need him to keep an eye on something for me. He said okay, and to give him a while because he was tending to his kids. After that, I went back to the house and had to wait for about 15 minutes for him to come over. So they're getting it on this whole time. They clearly have a lot of energy. This was hard to do because I had to see and hear him nailing my wife while holding up for him. When he finally came in, I told him to wait in the living room, and I walked in and had confronted them both. It was a real mess, and when we started all the shouting, our neighbor's son came in to see what was going on. Good Lord. When he came in, Keith thought we were going to jump him, so he hopped out our room window half-dressed, and my wife was embarrassed because she had nothing but her socks on. After shouting, I wanted a divorce, she yelled it back at me, F you. And we just left back to my neighbor's house. She's yelling F you to him. He walks in seeing her plowed. This is his wife, mother of his kids, getting plowed. And he says he wants a divorce, and she's saying F you, like he's the bad guy here. Women and accountability. I thanked him for having my back and apologized I didn't tell him what was going on. I told him I didn't think he would come over, and if I told him, and he laughed and said it was right. He said he only intended to bring his kids over to see their grandmother, not all this. That guy, the dude who came over to be a witness here, is going to remember this to the day he died. He's going to be telling this story over and over again forever. I mean, oh my God. When night came, I left to my cousin's house to be with him and his girl. While driving there, my wife had called me to curse me out. She's going to curse him out? What is she going to possibly curse him out about? But then again, this guy's obviously such a nice guy. Probably she knows she could gaslight him and make it out to be his fault. Not anymore. I told her I did everything for her, and she disrespected me in the worst way. She had claimed it was my fault, and I tricked her into marrying me and having kids when she wanted to work it out with Keith, when she said I had no feelings for her. She's actually blaming him, saying, you Jedi mind tricked me into marrying you, that everything would have worked out with Keith, and I didn't want to have those kids, so it's your fault. Sure. She knew exactly what she was doing. He had a car now all of a sudden, and resources. She found her nice guy. What a load of crap. Right there, in their bed, in their house with the kids, and she's getting plowed away by Keith, and it's this guy's fault. But don't worry, guys. We'll see. I told her since she regretted having my kids, that she doesn't have to worry about having them anymore. She tried to say that's not what she meant, but I hung up on her. She can say what she wants about me. She can even say she regrets marrying me, but I won't allow her to disrespect my kids. Good for you, Papa. When I got to my cousin's house, I told him everything, and him and his girlfriend never left my side. Even through the divorce, I thought it brought us even closer. Silver lining. Through the divorce, I ended up getting screwed over hard because not only did I have to pay alimony and child support, but she got the kids too. That is complete bullshit. You heard what happened here, and still alimony, child support, she gets the kids, and obviously probably the house and the assets. Remember, guys, you think you want to get married, and you think that girl is so amazing, and would never do anything like that to you, just be careful. Right here. We're not done yet, don't worry. Afterwards, she called me and tried to apologize for what she has said about the kids. She says she loves her daughters and doesn't regret having them. And I asked her, was her love the reason she destroyed our family? There you go. She said she didn't mean to do it, but everything changed when she ran to Keith's sister Nadine. She says she ran to her while out at lunch for her job, and they started to catch up. Yeah, she just can't get. She has such an attachment to her bad boy. It doesn't matter. How many times you hear stories, guys, about these gals that work in prisons, and somehow these guys behind bars are able to just say what they say to just rope them in, and they will risk their lives, their jobs, everything to get these guys out, right? You've heard these stories, and it gets way worse, some of these stories. When a guy has a woman's soul, not just her heart, but her freaking soul, they will abandon their kids, they'll change religions, they'll move out of the country, they'll break them out of jail, anything. And Keith and a lot of bad boys out there have these girls' souls. And that's what these nice guys can never get. She said she asked Nadine about Keith, and Nadine said he got locked up. Apparently he got stopped on a DUI, and when the cops searched the car, they found weed on him and his friends. Plus, they found out the police were already looking for him, so he ended up getting brought in. After hearing this, my wife felt bad, and Nadine asked her if she could help support him while he was in jail, and she agreed. One of my buddies is a defense attorney, and the old jokes they say amongst the defense attorneys are the longer the longer his record is, prison record, the hotter the girlfriend. Right here. After he made parole, he reconnected with her and apologized for how he treated her. And after reconnecting, the affair started for about 2 years. She was cheating on this guy for 2 freaking years. And again, she got the kids, the alimony, the child support, no doubt the house, and all that. This is the thanks he gets for everything. This is why movies are bullshit. I knew he meant none of it, and recently I heard I was right. A friend of mine told me he ran into a friend of hers and recognized him from hanging out with me and my cousin. She asked him how I was, and he said I was good. When he asked how my ex was, she shook her head and told me that she should have just stayed with me. Apparently he was still messing around with his son's mother, so Keith was banging them both. So this dude's ex went back, tried to get back with Keith. Guess what? He's still cheating on her left and right with his baby mama. Hearing this just made me roll my eyes, and I changed the subject. I tried to save her, smack, from the stupid love triangle, but she's still falling for the BS. It's clear he was always a clown, but after seeing what I saw, she'd like to be treated like another HOE. She just can't seem to understand that he's not going to let go of his child's mother. If you hear a girl you like talk about the ex all the time, you better run for the hills. Well, amen there, and if this guy watched my channel, or channels like mine, this would have happened to him. So guys, this is why I do what I do. And again, they're always going to go back to the bad boy. So you must be careful, gentlemen, for you relationship types. But at the end of the day, at least he can have the last laugh knowing that guy that she ruined the marriage for, he's cheating on her. That's a little karma there. And I hope this guy's walked out of this situation all the wiser. And at the very least, somebody out there watching this will be wiser after this, not make the same mistake he did. Being that nice guy, being the white knight, being the savior, just to rescue her from the bad guy and all that, it's not going to work out well because they will never let go of that bad boy, that attachment. It won't go away. They have their soul. All right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And, guys, you got a good story like to share, by all means, email it to me, strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. Just give me some time to get to it, and I will if it's a good one. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.